that smaller population. But that might be, half, a quarter, a tenth of the size of a given neighborhood in your community. So if I can make it work in a town of 500, then I'm pretty sure you can make it work in a neighborhood of 1,000 or whatever, And again, do your research first. Don't just jump in there and say, well, Daniel says it's going to work, I'm going to do this. Look at how many homes are being sold in an area. Think about how much possible market share you could have. If you can't survive on 100% of the market share, then don't go into that neighborhood. But let's say that a great neighborhood domination would be having 25% of the sides. That'd be pretty stellar in my opinion if you were getting if you were involved in a quarter of the transactions. Maybe for you, if there's 1 million agents, maybe 10% would be ideal. We're not talking about 10% of the whole town though. We're talking about 10% of a geographic area. And then look at the numbers, the sales data, and look and see if those sort of sales would support your lifestyle and your your expenses and things like that. For me, I'm lucky. I've got a great second job with the Real Estate Tomato. So real estate's just sort of the icing on the cake. And and we're also in a waterfront community where sometimes property is worth $1 million, which we don't all have. So I'm lucky in that sense that I can take advantage of those experiences that I have. But the smaller the niche that you can choose, the better. But I don't want you to go too small. And we'll talk about actually a sort of a very good rule of, or a very broad rule of thumb that you can use for that. But in addition to size, you can also limit by things like the type of housing that people want. You could just be the condo agent in an entire city. You could be Miami Condo King or something like that. But you set yourself up right from the beginning to only be working on condos, and maybe you only focus on condos in a specific area of Miami to start with. Waterfront duplexes. I said earlier, we already have a client who's really dominated a market just with duplexes. You can focus on transactions. The great two big ones right now are short sales and foreclosures, and set yourself up a niche right now. The thing that I would worry about some things like this, and I don't know, for all I know, it looks like the writing on the wall might say that we're going to see foreclosures at least for another 2 or 3 years. But after that, if we were to go back to like 2005, I don't know anyone that could have made a living off of like short sales. They just weren't something that was popular enough to happen. I don't know where the economy is going, but just be wary of the direction you set up a niche, because these hyperlocal blogging, the whole technique takes time to build up that niche. I mean, like I said, I'm 3 and 4 years into mine, and so I can look back with great success at this point. But the first couple of years, it was a whole lot of work with a whole little return. You can talk about your specific type of consumer, so you can focus on first-time buyers in a market, military relocations, and then you can mix and match. Obviously, you could be a Miami waterfront condo specialist, a San Diego luxury foreclosure specialist. So lots to do here. There's a tool called Google AdWords Keyword Tool. And I'll send you guys out this link at the end of the class. I'm not going to jump over there and demonstrate it, but basically you can plug in any keyword that you want to research, and this Google Keyword AdWords tool is going to show you, one, how much competition is related around a keyword, and also, two, what the monthly searches for a keyword are. And you can combine this research along with the type of research that we were talking about earlier, where you're focusing on how many homes are actually sold, looking at past data and things like that, and how much commission you would make off of those, the average price of those homes and things like that. But research all that together and just think of sort of the top keywords. You're obviously never going to be able to name every keyword, but when I look at like the major keywords, for my small town of 500, they're similar to what major keywords are in a town of in the city of Miami and things like that. You've got McClellanville, South Carolina real estate, McClellanville real estate, McClellanville, South Carolina homes for sale, McClellanville homes for sale. When I add all of these up, my number, the total monthly searches comes out to 23,000. Okay. And so my best guess on how on proper niche size, if you really want to have great success of this, is coming up with a number that's between 20,000 and 200,000. Can somebody make it work on a if they add up their top four numbers and they come up with 500,000? Can they make it work? Absolutely. If the numbers here of the competition is really really high though, and the numbers really high, it's going to take you longer to have these results, okay? And so that's what we're talking about, choosing a more specific local niche that you can have a little bit faster results with. 20,000 is awfully small. I mean, but again, the sort of my saving grace is that there's a lot of area outside of McClellanville that people search for with various ways. If your niche is Miami waterfront condos, don't plug Miami in here because Miami, is going to have 500,000 people searching for it. But I chose McClellanville because specifically this was a term that a lot of people come to my website with, and it's a term that I've been able to rank for, and it produces and generates income for me. I should also note that I do rental management, and that also is a pretty steady income for me as well. So I might, and I wouldn't have the rental response that I have if it weren't for the same hyperlocal blogging techniques. So I might add something like that, rental keywords to this. Um, let's talk about to get a little bit deeper into this. Let's talk about the idea of what they refer to as long tail search results. Um, I don't know if you've ever seen a bell curve. Let me go ahead and I don't want to get all geeky on you, but let's go ahead and pull up a picture of a bell curve so I can sort of demonstrate this. This is a bell curve, and it's used in statistics. And what you see here is you've got a high result of a few things that are done by people. And then as it curves out, you've got lower responses, but there's going to be a whole lot of them. It's sort of hard to put into words. And so what we have here is a bell curve sort of cut in half. But at the top of this bell curve, we've got keywords which are really competitive, really hard to rank for, but a whole lot of people are searching for them. In my area, it would be something like McClellanville. In someone else's area, it might be, downtown San Diego real estate. That's still a competitive keyword, although it's a lot more specific than just the name of a town. This has more people searching for it, and so this might be considered a short tail keyword, meaning that it's you may only rank for a handful of these, but they bring in a high amount of traffic to your blog. As we move down, you get less competitive words, which fewer people are coming to your site on. And then down here at the bottom, this is what we refer to as the long tail key results. Okay, very few people searching for things like McClellanville Historic District duplexes or San Diego foreclosures with pools. Okay, very few people searching for that. But if you add up all of these little, that 5 people came to your website on this keyword and 3 people came on this keyword and 1 person came on these, if you add up all of these, then they can often overpower, and I've seen it almost in every example of real estate websites where I've looked at their Google Analytics and things like that. These long tail keyword searches almost always overpower the shorter tail ones. Okay, so that's the principle behind hyperlocal blogging, is that even though we might be ranking for McClellanville, we're also ranking for 123 Main Street, McClellanville, South Carolina. We're also ranking for 124 Main Street, 125. But basically, at the top of the blog here, I've got real estate topics. Okay. Then down here, I've got some topics that these would be found on any real estate blog. But then if we start talking about hyper local blogging, that's where we start opening up into writing about places, writing about events, writing about news. Okay. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. At the center of the topics is your community. It can be a neighborhood, a city, a niche, whatever we talked about earlier. Relating to that, we can talk about real estate topics on a hyperlocal blog. We might write posts on buyer tips, featured listings, open houses, mortgage info, market updates, seller tips, all sorts of ideas that are related to real estate. I don't think I need to spend any more time on real estate because you know what a real estate blog is already. You've seen examples of them. We see less and less examples of these hyper-local blogs, so that's what I want to spend more time on. But related to these real estate topics, you're also going to create some pages, okay? You should definitely have a home search feature on your blog. If you don't already have some sort of IDX, I would recommend going out and investigating it and spending the money on adding an IDX of some sort, because they can be a major lead generation for you on your blog. There's also custom property searches, okay? And wherein you do a custom search and you can create a page. For instance, you might create a page for Tampa waterfront condos under 300,000, luxury foreclosures in South Overton. Okay, you might create specific pages on your blog in which the custom searches have already been done. If you use an IDX like Diverse Solutions is a great example. You can embed those custom searches and actually get SEO credit for the words embedded in there. A lot of these IDXs you don't get SEO credit. Diverse Solutions is one that you do. You may also want to very well also want to create some additional pages related to like a CMA or a what's my home worth, seller services page, buyer services page. I sort of group all these together and call them the what's in it for me pages. This is what, if somebody's thinking about doing business with you, these are what they're going to go looking for, okay? And so you should have pages on your site where you talk about buyers and sellers services. Now we're going to go ahead and get down into these hyper-local blogging questions or ideas, okay? And so the instances of places that you could write about, you might write about attractions in your community, businesses, restaurants, facilities such as like libraries and things like that, schools, landmarks. All of these things is, when somebody buys a house, they're not just buying a house floating out there in limbo. They're buying a house because it's near the school that they want, or because it's got great restaurants in the area, or all the attractions that they love are nearby, okay? Or it's close to their job. That's what people, when they buy a home, this is what they're looking for. So let's start writing about these places. And for instance, the example of restaurants, everybody's got to eat. If you can build up relationships with restaurant owners and people like that who are in your community, then you're going to have done half your work for you, because a lot of times these are the people that are over here in the stories that are being shared across the table from them, and they might jump in there and suggest you as a person they want to do business with, or they may even let you do something small like be able to put your business cards in a prominent location in a restaurant because you've sent some businesses towards the direction of the restaurant owner. So some examples, writing about a post on about Flo's Diner on Route 6, the J&E Smith Building, Cherry Park in Rockville, A-plus tax returns. These are all types of places that you could write about which will indirectly drive business to you, okay? I mean, A-plus tax returns, that's a hard one to say that it might drive a ton of business to you, but it might, tax specialists or CPAs and people like that, they come across a lot of investors and people like that, and it might be a good idea for them to know your name as well. But